As a leader, you want your team to be highly engaged, to take ownership, and to create excellent results on a consistent basis. How's that going? So I want to borrow in this brief video a lesson from Starbucks in how they do that. How do they do it? Well, it starts with what exactly are we trying to create? What is the vision? But underneath that vision, and you'll see all great companies, all great leaders tend to do this. It starts with that vision, but under the vision are a set of behaviors or values that support or create or make that vision possible. Set of values or behaviors. Now that's great, but a lot of companies have those and don't live them. So let's get into how Starbucks does it and how it works, how they actually live it, and then how you can make it work. Whether you lead a department, whether you coach a sports team, whether you're just trying to create excellence in your family, doesn't matter. This process applies. So Starbucks says we're trying to create this vision. We want to be the third place. We want to be a place that just welcomes people. We want to be this kind of an atmosphere. And then they said underneath that, what are these behaviors? Well, they came up with 5 ways of being. 5 ways of being, very simple. Be genuine, be welcoming, be involved, be considerate, and be knowledgeable. Genuine, welcoming, involved, considerate, and knowledgeable. 5 ways of being. And there's a major secret within the ways of being. And it has to do with this book called Drive by Daniel Pink. And in this book, he talks about creating engagement and creating ownership. And in that context, he says one of the greatest things to get people engaged in something is to give them some amount of autonomy or freedom. Well, Starbucks' 5 ways of being are a framework. The vision says this is where we're going. The ways of being are a framework. But within those ways of being, there is a tremendous amount of autonomy. And Daniel Pink talks about several types, but 2 of them are autonomy of task and autonomy of technique. In other words, what am I doing and how am I doing it? Well, be welcoming within that framework has, I could be welcoming this way, or this way, or this way. It doesn't say when someone walks in the door, pause, turn, smile, tilt your head to the side. It doesn't say all that. It says you've got some autonomy in creating this vision and this way of being. Now let me tell you a real example of this. I was visiting a Starbucks that was right next door to a company I was working with. I was doing a lot of work with this one turnaround of a distribution center. So we'd go in, grab coffee all of the time. And I go in there and I kept, as I'm studying Starbucks and how they do this, study excellence, right? You want to create excellence, study excellence. And I'm studying what they do and I start asking questions. Well, one young woman, probably 18, 19, says, Jonathan, you keep asking about this. She says, I have to show you this. And she brings out a notebook. Her notebook, it's a notebook she bought, simple notebook. It says her name and then it says, be welcoming. She starts flipping through it in front of me. And then she goes back a couple pages. Then she says, oh, there it is. And she shows me this page. And this page, one whole page said Jim at the top. Jim is the person that ran this distribution center. It says Jim. She says, look, there's your buddy Jim. Whole page. And it has notes about Jim. Jim drives a silver Saab. Jim commutes from Connecticut each day. It's about 90 miles each way to get to work and back. Jim usually comes in around this time. Jim likes to order this. Every now and then he'll order this. Jim's got a daughter. It has his daughter's name. She's a junior in college. And then it has a few arrows off of that. And it has college visits, the college name and the date next to Jim's daughter. So now Jim might pull into the drive-thru on a Monday or a Tuesday. And this young lady, because of her notes, because of her studying, trying to be genuine and welcoming, she says, hey, Jim, how's it going? She recognizes the car. Hey, Jim, how's it going? What did your daughter, and she'll say her name, what did your daughter think of whatever college she just visited? Now, do you think that affects the engagement of that person? Be genuine, be welcoming. How is up to you. How is up to you. You think that affects the engagement of the customer? You think that affects the ownership that that person, that girl takes of her role? Create the framework, create the way of being. You're a parent, a couple ways of being for your kids. Be loving and kind is one we use with my kids. Maybe in your business, maybe in your department, you create 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 ways of being. I gave these ways of being to my staff in a business a couple of years ago that I owned. And I said, what could we come up with? Took them about 2 weeks and my team comes back to me and they had 3. That business we work with young children. They said, we can be encouraging, enthusiastic, and loving. Be encouraging, be enthusiastic, and be loving. Simple, but unbelievably effective. Create the way of being and then create a feedback loop around it. How are we doing with that? And what Starbucks would do and what we borrowed into my business and what I do in my family too is say, let's take a couple days, let's take a week and dedicate it to being genuine or being encouraging or being welcoming or being involved or being knowledgeable or considerate. Let's dedicate and then let's showcase one person maybe once a week and say, here's a great example of someone filling that behavior. Here's a great example. What can you do with that? This young lady with her notebook. One day, her store manager said, why don't you show everyone what you do? She took her notebook, she showed it to them all. And some of them, listening, thought, I'm going to get a notebook. Some of them thought, I don't need a notebook. I'll take notes in my phone. Some of them thought, I don't need to take notes at all. I'll remember it. But I need to start having better conversations with my customers so I can get to know them at a deeper level. That's really neat that she knows what schools his daughter is checking out and what she thinks of these schools. That's really neat. Increases engagement of the whole team and the customer. Increases ownership of the whole team. Increases excellent outcomes. Jonathan Fanning, I hope this adds value to your leadership journey.